Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I am your host, Richie, St. Cloud, Florida, via Queens, New York, with my man, Mr. Idris Salam, aka Bosco from the Bronx, currently in North Carolina. How you doing, sir?
Ready to do it.
Yeah, ready to do it indeed. Tonight's show, in the spirit of Super Bowl week, is on coaches, the best coaches to ever do it in Super Bowls. We might piss off a few people, leaving a couple out, but that's what makes this fun. It's that you guys could rebuttal us, tell us, you missed this guy, or maybe we should rank somebody higher or lower. And that's the beauty of subjectivity when it comes to this. To the best of my ability, I tried to be fair, and I'm going to do my best to give logical arguments for each coach that I suggested on this top 10 list in terms of Super Bowls. And I want to make one thing clear. If I put a guy ahead of another guy, it doesn't necessarily mean the entire body of work. I am specifying Super Bowls here. But before we start that, I'm going to start with a little bit of the NFL coaching carousel. Eric Bieniemy is out in Washington. Dan Quinn is the new coach there. My question to you, the viewers, as well as you, Idris, is a Kansas City reunion in the works? The Giants hired defensive coordinator Shane Bowen as well as tight ends coach Tim Kelly, both from the Titans. Start with Bieniemy. I think when Eric took the job, he felt that he was going to be in a position to replace Ron Rivera. The title was assistant head coach. Unfortunately, with the true makeover that the Commanders did, shipping out Montez Sweat as well as Chase Young, hopefuls to be superstars in that organization. Young is currently a 49er. There has been some rumors that he might not be starting due to lack of effort. As Montez Sweat goes, he joined the Chicago Bears. They are ascending as an organization. What up, Zach? I believe that what's going to happen here is he goes back to KC because it's the most familiarity. And with Andy Reid not being a spring chicken, I believe that it would be his best opportunity to ultimately be a head coach, which is every assistant's ultimate end game, or at least most assistants. So that's where I'm at with that. I'll hit quickly on the G-men, then I'll flip it to you, Idris. I like this hire at defensive coordinator. Number one, the New York Giants will be going back to a 4-3, which I prefer.
Yeah.
Could mean potentially Xavier McKinney might not be as valued for next year. It'll be interesting to see how they navigate that. I like that as opposed to the 3-4, where you have a guy like Kayvon dropping into coverage. Now it's going to be more about ultimately blowing up stuff in the backfield, getting to the pass game, trying to limit it, hit the quarterback. As Tim Kelly goes, it's a lateral hire in terms of working relationship. And while Tennessee might not exactly be the biggest destination for offense outside of King Henry, if you follow the trajectory of what the Titans have done over the years, they've done a pretty good job developing tight ends. So I do believe that these are two quality hires. A top 10 rush defense last year for Tennessee, which will be welcomed by the Giants, which has been a weakness.
Yeah.
And the secondary play, similar to what we got from the Wink Martindale-led Giants, giving up a lot of yards but causing a ton of turnovers. Not so much the turnovers in Tennessee's part. I think he has a better roster here. So, we'll see how it plays out, but I like the hires. I think they're responsible ones.
I agree with you. When I saw who we hired for DC, I was a little skeptical, but I got to thinking. I said, "Here's a guy whose defense was top when it comes to red zone, rushing. I mean, still weak on the passing, but overall the defense was like average, middle of the road." And as I posted on my wall earlier, I'd rather have a defense that's average, middle of the road, than a defense at the bottom. So it's an upgrade. And our pass rush last year was pretty decent.
I do agree.
And I think with a 4-3 and bringing him in to work with our defense, now we got an extra pass rusher. I think it's going to help. I think we'll lose somebody. I think X may be gone.
potentially.
Unless he, I guess, fills a role like Landon Collins where he can drop down, and cover, cover the middle. I think our DBs, I think they'll do better because of who we have. When you got a pass rush, it pressures the quarterback. So that takes a lot of strain off the DBs. Quarterback got to get the ball out of his hands. So I think we got a good hire. For tight end coach, I think we got a good hire. I think it's not a great hire, but I think it's a good teaching tool. We got someone who's going to teach and then the tight ends in Tennessee have been pretty decent. So I think we did good. We got younger for sure. And
I like the fact that I said responsible hire. Mm-hmm. The one that I'm most excited about going into the new year is our offensive line coach.
Yes.
He did a hell of a job with the Raiders, and I believe that is going to be huge because when you look at guys like, say, a John Feliciano and Eric Flowers, other players that moved on from the New York Giants, they have played much better. And at some point, you do have to acknowledge that some of this shit is indeed coaching. Not sure what your sentiments and thoughts are on Eric Bieniemy, but I will say this. Dan Quinn becoming the coach is weird to me because this is a team that needs to draft another quarterback or try to redevelop and redistribute Sam Howell. And unless you nail it with the right offensive coordinator, I don't necessarily see how Dan Quinn is going to get that out of a quarterback. So in that regard, I'm not too keen. But then again, to be fair, Dan Quinn was the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons when Matt Ryan did win league MVP.
Yeah, but he had a Kyle Shanahan as an OC.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I think with Bieniemy, I thought they would keep him because Sam Howell did play well. The offensive line was just trash, but he put up real good numbers for a guy's second year. Really didn't do much his first year. I mean, he went in there and balled out. I was kind of surprised that they let him go and they're bringing in Cliff Kingsbury, who really hasn't done much. And you have to get the right type of quarterback in Kingsbury's offense, like they did with Kyler Murray. But Kyler Murray got beat up in that offense because he had to run the ball a lot. Indeed. So you have to get a quarterback like him. And I don't see a quarterback like him in the draft with the other than J.J. McCarthy. Micah Penix is not going to run the ball like that. Bo Nix may run the ball, but he's not an under center.
You don't want Michael.
You don't want Penix doing it.
To do Drake May because of the shoulder knee situation.
Drake May's good, but he has an accuracy problem. Jaden Daniels is probably the only one I would see running that offense because he's tall. He's pretty big, 6'4". So I think he'd be great in that offense, but I'm not satisfied with Cliff Kingsbury. I'm just not. I think Eric Bieniemy would have been a good guy to have in there to bring one of them new.
Yeah, that's what I found kind of interesting about it because you have a contrast of styles where you have a guy that is an offensive mind growing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't remember this or maybe just were not hip to this. Andy Reid still called the plays, but Eric Bieniemy was very suggestive in terms of the film room, in terms of prepping. So I do believe that Eric Bieniemy will ultimately get his opportunity in time, but I honestly was a little taken back that Dan Quinn's defense got carved up in that Packer game.
Yeah.
He's a damn good coordinator, but the truth is I feel that if there's something to critique, he doesn't necessarily make the right adjustments.
He doesn't adjust right.
And he's not the first one. I mean, shit, we could say that about Wink because the thing I like about going back to the 4-3 is that if you're winning your one-on-ones up front, coverage responsibilities become a little easier. But I do believe that the way Wink blitzed, granted, sometimes it did turn into turnovers. We were tied with the Ravens in forced turnovers. The ugly side of it is when you don't hit those blitz packages, you are very naked in that second and third layer of defense. So I think there's two ways to look at it.
I think the DC, Bowen, I think we need to teach tackling because that killed us last year. It killed us last year. They were making 5-yard runs into 20 yards down the field.
It looked like it mattered when you missed a one guy.
Yeah, and the guy's going down the sideline, like.
Yeah, like why?
And with Bieniemy, I think he'll get his chance again. I think Reid will bring him back in some type of capacity because Nagy's doing a pretty good job, but I think he's not Bieniemy. I don't think they'll knock Nagy out, but I think he'll bring him back in. And I think with Bieniemy, and they said how hard he is. I think Bieniemy's an old school guy.
Absolutely.
And
He played in that era.
Yeah, I think he rubs people the wrong way. But that's the type of coach I need. Someone who's going to look, y'all going to do this. This is the way we're going to do it.
And I'll be honest with you, Dan Quinn, in the grand scheme of things, is not that far off the tree in terms of that philosophy and that the way you handle the business. You know, Kellen Moore, he's with Philly now. That was an interesting hire as well. It wasn't even by design, but it seems like we're really honing on the NFC East. But all I could say is that I've seen both sides of Kellen Moore, and truly, time will tell. I do believe that he could be beneficial for Jalen Hurts.
I think so.
But
Hurts
this is
the type of quarterback he needs.
This is a team that's a couple of sneezes away from cap hell. But, you know, Howie Roseman has done a good job of dancing through the raindrops and finding ways to manipulate the cap. But this is going to be a challenging situation. Before we move it along to our top 10 Super Bowl coaches, I don't do this often, but I'm going to do this tonight. You know, everybody sees me as, this guy knows the sports. You know, his guys know their sports, and that's what we do here. You know, we love talking hip hop to, a few other things, but got to share a somber note because, in addition to, being something that I love, that being this podcast, this is also a place where I kind of get my own little therapy for, the rigors of life, but do sadly have to share some unfortunate news. My girlfriend and I were expecting, doing the math, roughly late July, early August. Sadly, yesterday, we lost a baby. And I want to give a heartfelt big shout out to my people at Universal Orlando, specifically Mythos, for the flowers. They did send them to my mother's house because I didn't realize that I still had my mother's address as just to kind of age me of how long I've been with that company. But sincerely, I just want to say that, I got a lot of decent friends that I was kind of whispering at, and I think people were kind of in the know that we were expecting. But I want to say this happened once in my life earlier when I was in my 20s with an ex-fiance. And all I'm going to say is I was not full grown back then because I didn't really completely grasp, how much women go through with this. And when I think about how we've gone backwards as a society with women's rights and this and that, all I'm going to say is this. Big shout out to my girl, Jennifer Chamness.
Same here,
She had a horrible day today, a lot of pain. But I got to say, man, my girl is strong. And I got news for you. I absolutely, positively could not have endured what she did today. Not going to lie, I'm heartbroken. Right. But, I have a grand blessing nonetheless because I love her son like he is my own. But I just want to sincerely say for those who reached out, now this is new news, it's not like everybody knew, so I'm not like looking at you if you didn't say something to me, but for those who reached out, I just want to humbly say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Shouts out Keith Woolridge from NFC Beast. We had a very good conversation yesterday, and you win some, you lose some, but this was not easy, I must admit. And, it's going to be a bit of a grieving process, but we're going to do our best. And, my company granted me 2 weeks, which I greatly appreciate. And, going to maximize it to just kind of get things a little more normal. And, of course, goes without saying, do some house projects. But we're going to be flying into the Super Bowl coaches.
Let me say something right quick.
Go ahead.
It goes to show we have so much division these days between men and women. And this goes to show that we need each other. We need each other. It doesn't matter what financial level you're on or whatever. It's right here. It's in the heart. We need each other. It's not, well, I'm a woman and I can do this, or I'm a man. No, we need each other because when times come, you need that shoulder to cry on. Period. Whether you're a man, whether you're a woman.
And I tell people this all the time, and I mean it sincerely. That woman can get me mad on a level where I want to commit a homicide. but at the same time,
Been there.
he also has a calming antidote to her that not
Exactly.
too many people have the ability
Exactly.
to reach beyond either. But I just got to say, man, I've gained an even deeper respect for her.
Yeah.
Because I know how much this hurt her, you know,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, I
Oh, yeah.
mean, we've been great friends. More importantly than anything else, we've been since probably 2004.
Yeah.
So you know, we've seen each other through a lot of things in life. So I just want to say that
Oh, yeah.
she might watch this in the morning. I think she's probably knocked out now, but I just want to say I'm very proud of you, Jen. And
Same here, man.
as far as I'm
yeah.
concerned, you're incredibly brave.
Oh, yeah.
And even though it didn't go our way, I have zero regrets about almost getting there with you, and I just want to say that sincerely.
No doubt.
All right, Mike Holmgren, my late father's twin. My dad used to rock the Green Bay jackets, the old starter joints at Lawrence High School games.
Yeah.
Once in a while, he gets stopped. He did look like him. My father did look like him, and my dad started putting on the pre-retirement poundage.
Yeah.
This man broke a 29-year hex for the Green Bay Packers that dated all the way back to Super Bowl II in terms of winning the Super Bowl trophy, which ultimately is the Vince Lombardi trophy.
Mm-hmm.
He famously said to his players addressing them after defeating the New England Patriots, "It means a little more to us because it's coming home to Titletown, USA." This coach also played GM and head coach for the Seattle Seahawks. Mm-hmm. Very adaptable coach. Kind of grew his roots under the great Bill Walsh as a member of the San Francisco 49ers coaching staff. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest accomplishment that I would give Mike Holmgren is that he got the best out of Brett Favre.
Yes.
The absolute best out of Brett Favre. And
what's up, Ivan?
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, Mike Holmgren, bro, very controversial loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of people felt it was a little sketch how the referees actually apologized to the Seattle Seahawks after that debauchery. The Seahawks, I'll put it to you like this. They were kind of new to the NFC when this game happened because they were known as an AFC team.
Right.
And Ben Roethlisberger arguably played the absolute worst game of any starter in the history of the Super Bowl. And he still happened to win. The best pass of that game was thrown by Antoine Randall L.
Randall L. On the option, yeah.
Yeah, to Hines Ward, Mike Zappi's most famous Uber passenger to date.
Yeah.
But no, I gotta say, man, Mike Holmgren gotta crack my top 10. There are others. I flirted with the thought of putting in Marv Levy, even though he didn't win one because he did go to 4. But when you really cut it down, I would put Marv more like as an honorable mention because his Bills just got their teeth kicked in 3 out of the 4 times. The one time against the G-Men, they truly had a chance.
Yeah.
But I saw the 4 Falls of Buffalo recently, and as a Giant fan, I must admit, they got some great fans over there. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I can go with Mike Holmgren. I got to see the rest of the list though, but I would put him on the list for now. I agree with everything you said. Think about it with Holmgren. Like I said, at Green Bay and Seattle, he was a GM, so he knew how to draft and he knew how to coach the guys he drafted. He got the best out of Favre. He got the best out of Hasselbeck. He did a great job. And I think he's one of those. He's like in that tree of Walsh and Sid Gilman. He's in that West Coast offense tree. You know, George Seifert and all of them. So
yeah, he really developed Brett Favre because if you notice, Favre was always destined for the Hall, but I feel that the most responsible play of his career in terms of not being reckless, because that man threw the most interceptions in league history. Now, granted, he retired with the most touchdowns as well.
Yeah,
that has since been broken, but Mike Holmgren got to be top 10 for me. This one might be a blast from the past. Some people might have forgotten about my next choice, but I'm going at number 9. Dick Vermeil. This is a guy that reinvented himself after being the coach of the Eagles many, many years ago. You're going back to like the Vince Papale era.
Yeah. Fried
Lo-
chicken Hamer.
he lost. That dude, that was a bad dude, bro.
Bad. Yeah, he can run back some kicks, man.
And I ain't even talking about football, bro.
Yeah.
That was a bad dude.
Bad dude.
He did resurrect the career, came back after 2-decade layoff, won a Super Bowl with the best undrafted player in league history. I'm talking about Kurt Warner.
The bagger.
The bagger. Yes, indeed. Just a tremendous story how Kurt Warner came to prominence and carved out a Hall of Fame career. Yeah. It started with the belief of Dick Vermeil because it was not Mike Martz. Mike Martz never wanted him.
Nope.
Mike Martz took this same Rams team to a Super Bowl a couple of years later, didn't have the same success as Dick Vermeil. Vermeil did something that is rare. He took 2 different teams to Super Bowl appearances, similar to what the previous coach, Mike Holmgren, did. And when you see some of these names pop up, you're going to notice that a good chunk of the guys that I suggested did do it in 2 different places. So, like, losing to the Raiders in 1980, this is the Lyle Alzado, Howie Long era. This is a long time ago. Getting beat by them and kind of just going into obscurity for a long time, but coming back, reinventing himself. And if I'm not mistaken, he might be the oldest coach to ever win a Super Bowl.
Let me tell you something about that Raiders-Eagles game. I was in 7th grade, and I picked that score. And I was like, I fell asleep because I was in private school, me and my brother in Maine. And I fell asleep, and I woke up the next morning, and one of the brothers, because it was a Catholic school, he said, "Wake up, man, wake up." I said, "Huh?" He said, "What was that score you had last night?" I was like, "I think it was 27-10." And he showed me the newspaper, and it didn't register. And I was like, I said, "Oh, I won." He said, "Yeah, you won." He threw me a pizza party and everything. Yeah.
How much? Let me
12 years old, man. I'm 12 years old.
Let me ask you this: how much money do you think people won that predicted that in the Baltimore Ravens New York Giants Super Bowl, the second half would start with consecutive kickoff returns? Yeah, dog. That will never happen again in a Super Bowl. I'm confident when I say that, especially with the new rules.
That will happen again.
Dick Vermeil, to me, has to be on this list. At the end of the show, we might be debating where these guys belong, but I think Idris and I are on the same page. Both these guys belong. Yeah. This might come as a surprise to some. Vince Lombardi at 8, possibly ranking him a little low. The man who the trophy is named after led the Green Bay Packers to the first original Super Bowl victories, as well as finishing good in the pre-merger era, which led into the Super Bowl. That's why it's not just back-to-back. Green Bay was a bona fide dynasty by the time they won the original Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. Mm-hmm. This guy's legacy is bigger than football. And I think part of the reason why I don't have him higher up is because with the evolution of so much more in football. It's not a knock on Lombardi. I think Lombardi is the master of his era. Mm-hmm. But when I consider that this is a man that stood for so much at a time where it wasn't easy to stand for what he stood for, Lombardi always had his ruffled feathers, so to speak, on the way he departed the New York Giants, and the team he grew up loving and the team he grew up coaching in the NFL ranks. Ali Sherman was chosen. Vince Lombardi wasn't. Vince Lombardi goes to Green Bay, which has less than a 1% population of African Americans, and forms a father-son bond with all of his players. Yeah. Goes to bat for Herb Adderley, who married a white woman, and this is a time in this country where interracial was a big issue for a lot of folks. And Vince Lombardi, one thing that I applaud the man for more than anything he ever did on a football field, is that he had zero tolerance for racism, right, feeling that he himself may have been a victim of such. Mm-hmm. And creature of habit, he went to church every day, cursed like a sailor.
What the hell's going on out here?
Yeah, definitely.
My favorite line, man.
Yeah. Just you look at the great films on NFL Network, and you're just like, oh my God, I'd love to play for that guy because he's the kind of guy that you would just want to run through a wall for. Literally,
another Newt Rockney, man. That guy.
And
Yeah,
he is buried in Brooklyn.
Yep.
Last I heard of his sister, she's actually a nun.
Really?
Not far from where Vince is buried.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and his name is also on one of the main roads that takes you into the newer Giant Stadium, MetLife Stadium. Undeniably, the biggest mistake the New York Giants have ever made, letting that man go away. And quite frankly, his impact is huge because not only did he bring Green Bay to prominence, he saved them from complete obliteration because the Green Bay Packers were going under.
They were going under.
And if there's one way I can honor this guy bigger than any other way, is that I would say that Vince Lombardi gave up his dreams to make a lot of other people's dreams come true because, truth be told, he did find Green Bay a little stale after a little while. You know, that was a Brooklyn boy. He kind of met midway late in his career, was able to turn around a very bad Redskin team.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, unbeknownst to Vince, he was coaching with cancer.
Yeah.
And gone way too soon for his time, but his impact is undeniable. And, you know, I'm okay if somebody watches this and is like, yo, dog, you need to put that guy like number 2 or number 1. But truth be told, I think with the evolution of coaches, I don't think that's why Vince is where he is. But make no mistake about it. For the era, he is the man of his era.
I will put him a little higher. He's a little bit more high for me because of what he did for the game before.
Now, lifetime achievement wise, I just want to make this clear. He's higher than 8.
Yeah, I put him higher based on the field also because I said he basically developed. You know, he's one of the fathers of the passing game. I mean, running game.
With that sweep play.
The sweep.
That dude ran that thing to perfection.
Yeah, he's one of basically the trap and stuff like that. So that's why I put him a little higher. But yeah, I just think what would the Giants have been had he been the coach?
Well, to answer your question, sir, we'd have the most championships as opposed to the third most.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, Cali Sherman.
But I'll be honest, man. I can't imagine an NFL without the Packers.
No.
And I can't imagine an NFL without the Giants and Packers playing meaningful football. So, you know, you lose and you win there. You know, Tom Landry was also part of that, and
this makes the flex.
Yes, indeed. Next up, I've got Andy Reid. Won Super Bowls 54-58 as Kansas City Chiefs head coach most recently last season. He lost 36 as as a coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. He lost 55 with the Chiefs during the pandemic season when it was Patrick Mahomes versus 14 guys. He was against 7 guys rushing him and 7 guys rushing him from the backside because his offensive line was completely undressed and imploded, and they were already injured going in. One of the more unfair matchups I ever saw. Andy Reid, very close to winning with the Eagles, took them to 4 consecutive NFC title games before getting over the hump and winning with the Kansas City Chiefs, oddly enough, beating his Philadelphia Eagles for the 2nd championship. Coach Andy Reid, when it's all said and done, now granted they have a Super Bowl this week. He wins this one. That's number 3. He comes back, go for a three-peat. They somehow three-peat. He is the greatest coach in NFL history, no matter what you want to say. But I will say this. While I always had a high respect for him, I never saw him as the best coach of his era. But when you manage to inherit Patrick Mahomes, I think it kind of adds a little extra. Ask Bill Belichick if having Tom Brady versus the next guy up or the guy before him made a difference.
You know, I wouldn't put Reid as the greatest coach, but I would put him down. It would be hard not to, because if you look at him, even when he had Alex Smith, he developed Alex Smith into a pretty decent quarterback. And he's a good quarterback developer. You know, Mike Vick. Well, I think he had Vick for you. He had Dominic McNabb. And he made these guys some damn good quarterbacks, man. So he's one of those guys I can't put him at number one yet, but I wouldn't argue with anyone who did. I'll put it that way.
Well, that's reasonable.
His resume speaks for itself, man. I mean, even this run with Kansas City, take away what he did in Philadelphia, take away with him being assistant in Green Bay with Mike Holmgren. Just go by what he's done with KC alone. You say, God, this guy's been coaching his ass off. You know?
No, it's incredible what he's accomplished. And, you know,
even losing his offensive coordinator because he lost Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
And they all right. He lost Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
You know?
And even before, Pat Mahomes became the quarterback, he had a guy that was labeled as an overrated, way too drafted high game manager in Alex Smith, and he had Alex Smith setting career highs in offensive totals as well.
The Super Bowl with him too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they were definitely headed in the right trajectory, even with Smith. You know, Mahomes, I think, only played one game in his rookie year last week of the season, but Andy Reid most definitely more than deserving of being where he is on this list, and that's why he is there. Next up, actually, before I even go there, people are going to punch their screen. Don Shula, Tom Landry, Sean McVay, honorable mentions. I want to make this clear, everyone. I want to make this clear. This is not for the career of coaching. This is just specific to the actual Super Bowl Sundays. I don't want people to think that I'm insinuating that Andy Reid or Mike Holmgren might be a better coach than John Shula or Tom Landry. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that in the Super Bowl era, guys that coached on the big day, that Tom Landry, much respect to him, but I do believe that if his Dallas Cowboys split with the Steelers in the 70s, perhaps he goes down as I know in most Dallas fans' hearts, he is their greatest coach. Yeah. But their greatest Super Bowl coach is a guy that recently got inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. He's in the Cowboys Ring of Honor as well now. You know who I'm talking about, and we'll mention him in just a bit. As Don Shula goes, Baltimore Colts, there's a couple of ways to look at it. Do I feel comfortable giving him top 10 coach rankings in Super Bowls when his team lost possibly the biggest choke in the history of the NFL against the New York Jets?
The Jets, yep.
Yes, his Dolphins did go 14-0, ultimately 17-0. Yes, he did go back-to-back. I want to point out something. That 72 Dolphins schedule, one of the easiest in league history. Not trying to be a dick. Mm-hmm. Just my opinion. And if anybody has an issue with Don Shula not being on this list, get at me. And that's the beauty of subjectivity. The reason I got a young guy like McVay up here, he's already made 2 different Super Bowls with 2 different quarterbacks. That's saying something. And a guy that's at almost the very top of my list, you'll find out who that is. I value those kind of metrics.
I agree with you with John Shula. I disagree with Tom Landry. I agree with you about the Steelers thing. But then again, with Landry was 2-3 in the Super Bowls. I think he did great coaching jobs in all 5, but I think he needed to beat the Steelers at least once. I think with that, God, Jackie Smith, man.
If he won the Ice Bowl, perhaps.
I don't think he was.
He wasn't the.
Was he coaching the Ice Bowl?
Yeah, he was there. If he won the Ice Bowl, even though it wasn't a Super Bowl.
He's 2-4 because he lost against
Well, essentially, they didn't consider that a Super Bowl.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
championship. Right. But the point I'm making is,
you're right.
The point I'm making is, if he would have won one of those, I would have had him on this list, no problem. I'm not questioning his greatness.
Yeah. Now, I think with Landry, now if you put him down as one of the greatest coaches,
oh, for sure,
yeah,
top 5, top 6, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. With this. I keep forgetting the Super Bowl. Yeah, I would. He would be my number 11. I'll put him higher than Shula and higher than McVay. I'll put him in I might bounce. I can't bounce Holmgren.
I have a feeling number 5 is the guy you're going to ultimately bounce. We are now up to number 6.
Okay.
Tom Coughlin, New York Football Giants. People might watch this and be like, oh, this is a homer pick. And I'm going to explain to you why it isn't. Truth be told, when you knock off not just the greatest dynasty of your era, the greatest dynasty of any and all eras, not once, but twice, it sticks around. You have to be in the top 5 or 6 or bottom line top 10 in coaching Super Bowls. When you knock off Bill Belichick, Tom Brady twice, not to mention the first one, you defeated an undefeated team that crushed Don Shula's Dolphins in terms of metrics.
Yeah.
I'll put it to you like this. If Don Shula's 72 Dolphins had one loss, they would probably drop from number 1, 2, or 3 on the top 10 teams list, probably like 15. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. But, you know, the competition that they didn't play, that needs to be spoken on once in a while. Giants were wild card 10-6 that year, 07. 4 years later, they sure did. Yeah. 4 years later, with only a 9-win season, they became only the second team to make a Super Bowl with a 9-win season. The other was Arizona, but they lost. They were the first 9-win team to win it all. And like I said, when you defeat the New England Patriots twice in a 5-year span during that era, you're in, pal.
Let's talk about who they got through. They got through Green Bay twice. They got through Dallas. They got through Frisco.
Yeah, Dallas was an elimination game in 11, final week of the year. I mean, you're talking about a weird situation where Christmas Eve that year, the interconference Giant game was actually for elimination status.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, Tom Coughlin did a great job in Jacksonville. Expansion team. Got them 1 win away from the Super Bowl in only year 2. That's pretty
by the same team the whole season. The same team beat them all year, Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee took them out 3 times in 99.
Yeah.
And in 96, who'd he lose to? The Patriots. Bill Parcells, the guy that he used to coach with.
Right.
With the New York Giants alongside Bill Belichick. It's all circular, bro. It's all circular. Tom Coughlin is a friggin' legend. And the New York Giants have not been right completely since they unceremoniously let that man go.
Let's not forget how he almost took that Jacksonville Jaguar team with what's his name? I can't think of the quarterback.
Brunell, man.
No, the one recently.
Oh, you talking about Blake Bortles?
Blake Bortles.
UCF?
No, he wasn't the coach. He was
upstairs. He was upstairs.
He was upstairs. Yeah.
Blake Bortles, bro. Poppin' Bortles. Mike Shanahan is a proud papa this weekend, and he is also the owner of 2 Lombardi trophies as a head coach. Some people might snarl at this one. He's a little too high. The Denver Broncos, fellas and ladies, they won 2 consecutive years in the Super Bowl. They broke the AFC curse after finally winning one for the AFC. I think it was like 12, 13 years of losses. Yeah. But this is something that a lot of people don't think about. The guy we just mentioned, Tom Coughlin, 1996 season, knocked off number 1 seeded Denver. If Denver wins that game, you're potentially looking at a three-peat. Not to mention, I don't think Denver changes their colors.
No.
That was the last time they wore that orange crush, and then they went to the metallic horse, and then they won 2 Super Bowls, and it happened really fast.
Yeah.
Terrell Davis, John Elway, Rod Smith, they were pretty special. But going back to back is such a rare feat, and that's part of the reason why I did this. Now, granted, Vince Lombardi did it too, but it was at the inception of the Super Bowl era. Now, I'm not taking nothing away. I'm just saying, you know, some of them hit a little different.
Yeah. You know, now that you explain Shanahan, because when I first seen his name, I was like, Richie lost his mind.
And as I already
alluded, I was like, okay, you're right about that.
And I got news for you, bro. When they beat Atlanta against Dan Reeves, I was pulling hard for Atlanta because
I was too.
I don't like the way that Shanahan did Dan Reeves.
Yeah.
If this was based on fairness, Dan Reeves would have won one of these.
Yeah.
You know, if it was based on fairness, he would have won at least one.
Yeah.
If it was based on fairness, Bud Grant, Marv Levy would have won one. There ain't a nicer guy in professional sports than Marv Levy. God bless him. The guy's just a wonderful guy.
I was a fan of Bud Grant. I love me some Bud Grant, man. My brother, rest in peace, he was a Vikings fan. And I used to sit there with him and watch the Vikings. And it's just Bud Grant's demeanor. He just had that look like, y'all better go out there and win. You know,
Right.
he was Belichick before Belichick. You know,
Right. Yeah, man. Bud Grant, poor guy,
yeah,
never did win the one, and
great coach though.
he might be ranked higher as an honorable mention, or even more credibility to be a top 10 guy as opposed to a Levy or a Reeves, because he was in some of those games where those two guys got blown out all the time.
Got the doors.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson, one of the big anchors at Fox Sports, alongside our man Mike Strahan, as well as Howie Long, Kurt Menefee, Terry Bradshaw, led the Cowboys to back-to-back 27
You might as well
and
put 3
28.
down for him, man.
Well, that's where I'm going, and you're going to notice I even put it in the description.
Yeah, no.
Dallas won the third Super Bowl in that decade because he was the architect of that team. So a lot of Dallas fans don't feel very comfortable giving Barry Switzer that kind of credit, winning with Jimmy's guys. The trade that changed it all.
Yeah.
Herschel Walker for a small village of picks, and that small village turned into the triplets: Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith. Jimmy Johnson put together arguably the greatest offensive line in league history.
He fleeced
the Minnesota Vikings.
He fleeced them Vikings. They don't know what they gave up. Well, they know now, but
yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And you talk about one team lost 4 Super Bowls. The Cowboys won 5, 3 of them in this era of the 90s, 2 of them with Jimmy, 1 with Barry. Barry doesn't get remembered that well in Cowboys lore, in Cowboys history. But I must admit, it's pretty exceptional when you think about how it goes down. Now, just to show you that I am not a homer, I want to make one mention to everyone. I chose one Giants coach in terms of impressive Super Bowl victories, and the one I chose was already mentioned. I want to make one thing clear. I'm going to give Bill Parcells a shout out. Undeniably one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. But remember, we're talking about Super Bowls.
Right.
He did come close to going 3-0. He did lose to the Green Bay Packers against Mike Holmgren. Mm-hmm. If Parcells' legacy, in my opinion, was he got teams set up but never stayed anywhere too long.
Yeah.
Post Giants.
Yeah.
And while the 2019 was pretty remarkable, shouts out Bill Belichick for the game planning that season. But the truth is, the reason the New York Giants won that football game is because they kept the Buffalo Bills off the field.
Yeah.
It was Buffalo outgained them, and in a lot of people's estimations, outplayed them. But Phil Simms, greatest game of his career, Super Bowl 25. I'm a massive Giants fan. I'm not taking nothing away. If we're talking about a top 10 list of just flat out coaches, Bill Parcells makes my top 5.
Yeah.
This is specific to Super Bowls. And that's why Bill just missed the cut. No knock on him. Just trying to be as objective and honest as I could.
I think with Jimmy, and everyone knows I'm a big Cowboy hater, but I say if Jerry never fires Jimmy, they may win 5 or 6.
Indeed.
It may not even be a break between that last one and Barry coming in, and I think they just run it 3 or 4 straight, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I couldn't agree with you more. This is a team that I believe that if Joe Montana doesn't get injured by the Giants, they may have had to wait a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dallas, it came quick for them because of that. Yeah. Once again, I love Jimmy Johnson. I wouldn't put him on a top 10 list for all time, but for Super Bowl specific, he definitely makes it.
Yeah,
I'd have Parcells again, because the second stint in Miami wasn't that good, and longevity matters. Chuck Noll, the leader of the 70s Steelers, coaching them to a perfect 4-0 record in that decade. Wins over the Cowboys twice, Rams and Vikings. He is the first head coach to go back-to-back twice. Very impressive. Decade. Very impressive. And like I said, if the Cowboys split with them, it changes the narrative of whose decade it was. It would have been a clean split, 3-3 for the decade. Chuck Noll, when I think about the fact that he was one of a habit that the Steelers kept with being very frugal about firing coaches. Mm-hmm. And to this day, Mike Tomlin, who replaced Bill Cowher, when you really look at the big picture, 3 coaches in the last 50 years. That's remarkable.
58 years, man. It's crazy.
It is pretty crazy, and it speaks on why this team has the sustainability they do, because it is an organizational thing. But Terry Bradshaw, while I give him props, and while I don't like when people try to take a dump on him because of the interception numbers, I also take into account that the passing game on a lot of metrics was still in the infancy, where this was a defensive league back then.
Mm-hmm.
You could do anything to quarterbacks in that era. It was a very violent game.
Yeah.
The 70s, arguably the most violent decade of NFL football.
With the Steelers, that Steelers team, and what people don't know, because I that's around the era I started watching football. Chuck Noll, he didn't use the tight end. He never threw the ball to the tight end. They tight end blocked. Receivers, Swan and Stallworth, you know. And that team is like, I remember watching them because I watched those games live. I seen all 4 Super Bowls, and I was like, God, man. I didn't think they were. I almost became a Steelers fan, but it was the Chiefs because of my uncle. But I was like, I'm a Giant. But God, the Steelers were so. As a kid watching that team, I was like, golly.
When I think about just all of it,
yeah,
I mean, they were a top tier organization, and the wild thing is they were terrible for the first 40 years of their existence, similar to what the New England Patriots were,
right?
Before striking, lightning in a bottle by drafting Tom Brady, granted in the 6th round. But number 2, I have him as number 2, in my opinion, has one of the more impressive stat lines. Joe Gibbs.
Oh, man.
Won a perfect 3-0 with the Redskins, now the Commanders, in Super Bowls. 17, 22, and 26 are his victories. 2 of those were following years that the Giants won. One of those was with the replacement season. The rare standalone feat that Gibbs accomplished is winning 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. Doug Williams,
right.
Joe Theismann, Mark Rippon. He is the only coach in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. It's never happened before.
Right.
It may. I mean, if you have a franchise that won with multiple guys, that's saying something. But the same coach, 3 different QBs,
within a certain span at that.
That might be the most. And I'll be honest, Giant fans. Once again, this is part of the reason why, specific to Super Bowls, why I put him up here, why Parcells didn't.
Yeah.
No, and once again, and I reiterate, no knock on who I think in terms of making the top 5, top 10 list. Specific to game day on Sunday. And Joe Gibbs, the way that they totally destroyed the Buffalo Bills, after the Bills, in most people's estimations, were the best team in football, because a lot of people feel that they should have beat the Giants the year before. Mm-hmm. The way that he slaughtered the Denver Broncos. Yes. Yeah. So, Joe Gibbs was awesome in the Super Bowl era with these Redskins. And last but not least, former Giant DC turned Patriot head coach, before that, Cleveland Brown head coach, Mr. Bill Belichick, 1-6, can't get a job now, with New England, spanning over 3 different parts of decades. Super Bowl 36 over the greatest show on turf, Rams, 38 over the Panthers, 39 over the Eagles, 51 against the Atlanta Falcons. I had a typo here, but I meant to put down 49. I put 39 down twice. 49 was against the Seahawks with the famous Malcolm Butler pick.
Yeah.
His 3 losses in the bowl, 1 to the Philadelphia Eagles, led by Nick Foles, who was coming in relief of an injured Carson Wentz. They got hot at the right time, one of the most highest scoring Super Bowls. And we kind of already alluded to what the G-Men did. This is the thing with Belichick. This has been an age-old argument lately, that Brady was needed by Bill more than Bill was needed by Brady. I'm just going to say one thing. You don't win 6 Super Bowls with one organization without the assistance of having a top 5 and top 10 defense almost every season that you started at the position. And the thing is, when you're a player you have more leverage. You have wings. You could go to another team that's already kind of established, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were. Even with Mr. Crablegs, the 30-30 man, they had won 7 games the year before.
Yeah.
So Brady getting them over the top wasn't the biggest shock. And then when you consider that Belichick in year 1 went to the playoffs without Tom Brady, but Belichick is a defensive mastermind. If there's one thing to critique about Bill, it was him being a general manager.
What I got to say about that is this. I'm Eli Manning. I'm nice. Tom Brady's the GOAT. Psych, I beat him twice.
Bars for days.
I had to say that, man. I just love that. But I mean, everything you said about
Bars for days. Jay Alford, Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck putting Tom Brady in the days. Easy vision.
Everything you said about Belichick. See, people keep saying, "Well, Belichick didn't win without Brady," but they forget Brady went to a team in Tampa Bay that was ready. They just needed a quarterback that could see.
Check this out. I got one for you, and I'm going to be honest. This is another reason why Coach Parcells didn't make it. Mm-hmm. What did Bill Parcells win without Bill Belichick? I'm sorry, bro. You know I love Bill.
Yeah.
You know I have a high reverence for both those guys.
You need good coaching. You just can't.
What Bill Belichick meant to those Giants defenses, you look at how close they got with New England. Oh, by the way, who ran his defense in New England for Parcells? That was Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick.
Who was helping him out in the beginning parts of the jet run? That's why Bill Belichick didn't want to stay there. Because he's like, listen, I'm not questioning Parcells' greatness. He got Dallas close. He discovered Tony Romo.
Yeah. But coaching matters because and this is not to take a dump on the Cowboys. I don't like them, but coaching matters. You look at I gotta stop calling Mussolini Mike McCarthy. That Dallas team is loaded. They couldn't beat that Green Bay team.
A very inexperienced Green Bay team.
They were outcoached, period. Detroit's the same way. It's just the coach he gambled too much. If he would have played the game, they beat San Francisco.
Bro, I don't like to insinuate anything. All I'm going to say is it didn't look normal. Because I'm like, yo, I get it. You take chances and da-da-da. I get all that. But I'm like, bro, this is for a trip to the Super Bowl. Your team, your franchise has never been there. You will forever in history be linked to taking the Lions to a Super Bowl. He literally gave the 49ers momentum.
He did.
That they didn't hit on. And that kind of leaves us to this. There's a big game going on Sunday.
Yeah.
And in the true fashion of our show, we'll be going live the morning of. Because the game starts late. When I was a member of the Jordan Patrick Show, the inaugural show, oddly enough, was the Patrick Mahomes-led Kansas City Chiefs against the Jimmy Garoppolo-led San Francisco 49ers. That was also an episode where we honed in on the cheating scandals of Spygate, AJ Hinch, as well as Pete Rose. That's on the gambling spectrum. That's how the AJ Hinch thing started. And we also talked about the recently departed Kobe Bryant. That was the week we lost Kobe. And a big pandemic that changed the world happened after the second episode. So I got to say, man, when I think about doing this podcast stuff, kind of proud because, there was a substantial amount of time that we missed after our inaugural show.
I think about where we are. AJ Hinch stuff because I mean, when I came on the show, it was AJ Hinch. I said, let me join in on this too.
Yeah, Jordan, shouts out to him. He was actually talking about putting the AJ Hinch on the merch and kind of sneak it in on the coffee cups. Hey, Rich, this is for your mother-in-law. Or, hey, this is for your titi, and then drinking tea and relaxing, and then the inside of the cup, we're gonna say, "Fuck you, AJ Hinch." Never forget.
What a time. Yeah. Yeah. I save my predictions till Sunday, but I think it's gonna be a pretty good game.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good game. Definitely save him until Sunday.
Yeah.
Shouts out Casual Convo. I'm gonna be appearing tomorrow on Casual Convo. Coco is setting me up for a segment talking about the Super Bowl. As some of the faithful that follow Casual Convo call me Sports Vlad. I look forward to joining the show and also contributing to the other topics. And, you know, it's kind of cool not being the host sometimes. You just kind of get in there. You know what I mean?
See, that's why I like you taking the lead. You know, it's so much easier when I'm like, I'm feeding off you. Cause when I'm doing it by myself, I'm like, okay, I'm by myself. What are we gonna do? You know, with you, I can be like, okay, I can feed off of him. Let's roll.
And I appreciate the sentiments for Jen and Noah. And I'm just gonna be honest with you, Ma. I'm happy that you were hanging out with Ida yesterday. Sometimes things happen for a reason. Like you're hanging out with the right people when you hear terrible news. But I just want to say there ain't nothing fun about what I shared on the show earlier today. But one thing I must admit is the shittiest part, calling my mom. No doubt. That undeniably the worst part of all of that. Shout out to just all the people that have reached out to me and give me just some perspective on the situation because like I said, man, it's going to be a little bit of a heel here. I'm very grateful for the 2 weeks that I got, but not gonna lie, man, definitely stings. But I'm no victim here, and like I said at the top of the hour, it puts in perspective how much women go through and things that us as men naturally take for granted. And I said it at the top of the show. I'll say it again. My girl's very brave and very strong, and she's starting to feel better, thank God. So on that note, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Might not be the typical version of myself that I normally am, but like anything else, as they say, the show must go on, and always got to keep punching. Mm-hmm. And that's all I got for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back soon with announcements to come with regard to our Super Bowl show, as well as possibly another squeezing show with more stuff Super Bowl related, because that's the cool thing about Media Week. You get time to talk about stuff from the past. Yep. How about Super Bowl running backs? I think that might be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Until next time, he is Idris. I am Richie. Make it a point, like and subscribe to that channel, Richie X Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube, and we are out until next time.
Peace.